Hi, my name is Dean Tuck. I'm the Managing Director here at Dreadnought Resources. I'd like to thank everyone today for joining us on our very first Investor Hubinar. We're very excited to be presenting this to you on this new platform, and also thank you to everyone who has submitted questions on the Investor Hub platform for me to answer today, and I'll be sure to get to all those questions as need be. I'm joining you today from on-site at Mangaroon. Got the Star of Mangaroon behind me, and of course lots of flies here to keep me company. So don't be surprised if I'm swatting a fair bit of the Aussie salute, because they're pretty thick up here at the moment, but at least the weather's cooling off, and it's a good time to be here on site. Our agenda for today, we're going to open up talking about a bit of the Dreadnought strategy, and also how the market is impacting our focus for 2024. We will then go through and give an exploration update on each of our projects, and I'll follow up and close out with a Q&A session from all the questions that were submitted to us on Investor Hub by the time I recorded this video. Moving on to the strategy and the market and how it's impacting our focus and priorities for 2024. When you look at the resources industry, there are three main ways in which companies can deliver value to our shareholders. Number one is by discovering mines. Number two is by building those mines. And number three is taking those existing mines, optimizing them, or extending their life. Each of those stages, each of those opportunities takes a particular skill set in teams that are focused and experienced in delivering value in those situations. Here at Dreadnought Resources, we have developed a team and built a team that is experienced in delivering exploration success through discovery. We believe that the greatest value creation event in the industry is the initial discovery, the front end of the Lassonde curve. And that is what Dreadnought is focused on, and that is the team that we have built, and the specialty that we bring to the table is making discoveries at the front end of the Lassonde curve and delivering values to our shareholders through discovery. Now, if we look at successes that have been delivered in the past, and what does that look like? You have examples like Sirius Resources with Nova Bollinger being completely bought out by IGO. You have Azure recently being taken over, and the same thing with their Andover project. You have another example with Gold Road and the Gruyere discovery, in which case they partnered with Goldfields and they jointly developed that operation and brought it into production. And you also have another example, which is Sandfire, the Descrusa discovery, where they changed the team, they developed the mine, and now they've expanded beyond the original asset to an international mining company. When you look at these opportunities, this is what the in-game crystallization of value options look like for Dreadnought Resources. We could be taken over, we could sell an asset, or we could jointly develop that asset with another partner. In an extreme case, we could bring in a new team, and that team could build that mine or spin that asset out to create a new entity to develop the assets that we discover. The resources industry is often viewed as a high risk and high reward industry, and mineral exploration within that, the highest risk and highest reward. So, how do we go about maximizing that reward and minimizing that risk as much that is possible? We aim to build a portfolio of large-scale, unloved, and underexplored projects where we can open up new search spaces to make meaningful discoveries with low-cost systematic exploration. What does that mean? That's a lot of talk to say that when you open up a new search space or go and explore somewhere with a technique or look for something that hasn't been found before, you tend to light up big anomalies and find the big discoveries with the least amount of work. Secondly, we have a portfolio of commodities that gives us optionality throughout the market cycles. So what have we seen right now? We have 4 major projects. We have over 10,000 square kilometers of ground here in Western Australia, Tier 1 mining jurisdiction. That portfolio in this current market for exploration is pretty fat. And so we're looking at streamlining that portfolio, optimizing that portfolio to give us a bit more focus on some of our key projects, which at the moment we view as Mangaroon with its diverse optionality, and Kimberley, Central Yilgarn, and Bresnahan. So while the market right now is quite cool towards exploration in general, there is still a lot of commodity interest in things like copper, gold, and uranium. Our uranium asset at Bresnahan is unfortunately in Western Australia, and due to government regulations, that is something that has not seen much value or much interest. However, the gold and the copper are certainly things that we believe we can deliver discoveries in this year within our portfolio, and that's why copper and gold are our focus for exploration in 2024. The rare earths, a year and a half ago, the market valued the yin asset at hundreds of millions of dollars, and unfortunately, market sentiment has changed, commodity price has dropped, and now the market values that in tens of millions of dollars. We have done nothing over the last year and a half, but add value and confidence to that resource and that project, and we see that asset as being well positioned should there be a change in sentiment in the market for rare earths to add significantly to the value proposition of Dreadnought Resources. Lithium, we've gone after a lot of low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of smoke and a lot of fertility. It requires a bit more of a focused and concentrated effort going forward, and so we see the lithium as a good opportunity to partner with a major lithium company, and those discussions are ongoing. In summary, Dreadnought Resources is a greenfields exploration company focused on making discoveries in new terrains using new technologies, opening up search space to make that big discovery. Moving on to an exploration update, we'll start off with Central Yilgarn. Central Yilgarn covers 1,400 square kilometers, around 150 strike kilometers across 4 greenstone belts in the highly prolific Yilgarn Craton of Western Australia. Why are we here? Greenstone belts are extremely prolific and highly prospective bits of ground. Whether it's gold, lithium, nickel, iron ore, base metals, greenstone belts tend to have something for everyone, and often in close proximity to each other. The Central Yilgarn itself, why are we in that particular area? It's the Bermuda Triangle of the Yilgarn. This is an area when the early explorers went through, it was a very harsh and inhospitable environment. None of the main access tracks that supported pastoralists or early exploration activities went anywhere near the Central Yilgarn, and oftentimes early explorers or early prospectors that went through there ended up not leaving or not returning. So this is an area that has been unloved for a lot of the early stages. While the rest of the major gold fields were opening up, the Central Yilgarn remained relatively untouched. Then, since 2000, the area's been explored predominantly by iron ore companies. And so that left us with the opportunity to go to an area that had limited historical prospecting and exploration, and hadn't had any modern exploration techniques applied to it. The major opportunities now, Central Yilgarn is becoming quite an advanced project for us. We've been active in the area across multiple entities for quite some time, and so we see still the potential for a major discovery and low-hanging fruit. We've chased up some of those drill results and some of those drill targets recently in the last month. We look forward to seeing those results, and depending on how those results come through, we'll determine the next steps for the project area. The lithium in this area, we're right next door to some very active lithium exploration. We've had a crack at things like Peggy Sue and some of the other anomalies. There hasn't been any low-hanging fruit out there. That lithium could be leached, that could be more distant, it could be undercover. If we see this area as attracting interest from major lithium players, we also have potential divestments or commercialization of some of the more advanced assets, pending exploration focus and activities and interest throughout the rest of this year. So our priority focus for 2024 at Central Yilgarn is on the gold. We've just delivered our first program for the year, drilling compelling gold targets out here at Central Yilgarn, and we look forward to releasing those results later this month. Upcoming catalysts for this project area are the drill results from that program, drill holes at Tiger, Viper, Chicken Little, and Leghorn, and any results that come from that target generation, target definition work that we did in parallel. Next steps, we have the assay results coming out later this month, and pending those results will determine the next steps for us at Central Yilgarn, and continue deal discussions across lithium and any potential divestments within the Central Yilgarn portfolio that deliver a return for our shareholders. Going through some of the actual drilling targets now, at T2 we had the Leghorn target. This was a previous gold intercept where we had sulfidized high titanium mafic amphibolites hosting a fairly thick gold sequence. I believe we had 48 meters at 0.7, including 21 meters at 1.3 from about 54 meters depth. There was a coincident IP anomaly sitting just back from that previous drill intercept, and that gave us two working hypotheses to work with, either of shallow structure going from the mineralization down to that IP anomaly, or a more vertical, subvertical structure sitting beneath that. We put drill holes into this target, one directly underneath and one through the center of the IP anomaly, to test both of those theories. The drill hole that was drilled underneath continued to extend that high titanium mafic, that sulfidized mafic unit at depth on a subvertical structure that could be continuation of that gold mineralization. The IP anomaly went through, essentially, what that looks like. That was explained by a magnetization as part of serpentinization of an ultramafic unit. However, the center of that serpentinized unit was then sulfidized. And so is that sulfidized system carrying gold with it? We don't know, and we'll have to wait for the assays to see what's coming from that. So there's still two working hypotheses going on here. There's potential for gold to continue on the subvertical structure with that sulfidized high titanium mafic rock, similar to the previous gold intercept, and depending how the IP anomaly goes in that sulfidation, that could also be carrying gold and dropping out in that magnetite as part of serpentinization. At T2 Honey, we put 6 holes in for 294 meters, fairly shallow drilling around that. This was a historical shallow pit where prospectors had pulled out a lot of free gold from within ultramafic rocks. Very similar in description to Wattle Dam, which was a very small deposit. It's like 60-meter strike, but still contained 250,000 ounces at 10 grams per ton, and is the mine that made Ramelius the company that it is today. So that is a high priority target. There's not a whole lot to go on with this one, so it is an existing pit. We know it looks like Wattle Dam. Wattle Dam was a very difficult deposit. It had essentially biotite alteration associated with the mafic. There's no veining, there's no sulfidation. It was a very nuggety deposit, very difficult to drill. So we're very interested to see how this drilling comes back. There was some mineralization at the bottom of that pit. There was no pathfinder association with it. There's no obvious alteration associated with it aside from a bit of biotite. So it really is going to be a wait and see for these assays. It could be something, it could be nothing, and then based on that, we need to reassess and see what the next steps are for Honey. Moving on to Viper, which was one of my favorite targets. This was a previous air core intercept that had returned some decent gold intercepts, and we had coincident IP anomalies in a BIF-hosted environment where that BIF goes undercover and does an outcrop. Our drilling intersected quite a thick sulfidized unit with all of the association, all of the alteration mineralization that we would like to see for a sulfidized BIF containing a gold system. Doesn't mean there's gold there, but the alteration of that thick banded iron formation unit was very juicy, it was very exciting, and we're looking forward to see what comes back from that. It is gold, so you never know until you get the assays. Last but not least, Chicken Little over at T6. We drilled 2 holes for 270 meters here. This was a coincident downhole anomaly, sitting on a banded, again, a sulfidized banded iron formation, which had previous gold intercepts shallower up. The drilling that we put under this hit some really intensely altered and sulfidized banded iron formations. I think the geologists in the field were probably most excited drilling this. So again, we'll wait and see to see what comes back from those assays, and we look forward to getting those out here later this month. That takes us to Mangaroon. Mangaroon we view as 3 projects in one: Mangaroon Gold, Mangaroon Nickel, and Mangaroon Rare Earths, and who knows what else we're going to find here. Mangaroon is 5,000 square kilometers of ground. That's a very substantial land holding in the Gascoyne region within the Mangaroon zone. This is a Proterozoic mobile belt. These areas are prospective for gold, copper, base metal, and rare earth mineralization. Some of the reasons why we love the Mangaroon project and are able to get such a large land holding is because the area has a very unloved history. We saw this as an area with unloved history, no modern exploration. We're able to take as large, substantial land holding, an area that had known mineralization around, that we could go out and deploy our skills and make additional discoveries that are sticking out of the ground. Undercover exploration was a mantra for quite some time and still is. We view undercover exploration as a graveyard for juniors, and we've seen that in the Albany Fraser and elsewhere. Here, we had an area that was unloved, and we've already made a number of mineralization discoveries sticking out of the ground. Between yin and the carbonatites and the money intrusion, we see potential for so much more, and particularly in the gold space, as we continue our exploration here. That is good, low-cost, systematic exploration, modern exploration techniques in a large land-holding unloved province, and we look forward to making additional discoveries here at Mangaroon. So what do we see as the opportunities? Once I get my thing back open. So what do we see the opportunities here at Mangaroon? One, of course, major discovery. We've already had the yin discovery, the nickel discoveries are on their way, and the gold discoveries are hopefully coming up this month, later next month. We have ongoing partnership discussions to replace First Quantum with our nickel. While I would love personally to continue to explore the nickel and the money intrusion, in this market we see that as a very attractive asset that we can bring in a partner to assist us carry the load on that project and give it the attention that it requires. And we also have commercialization and partnership discussions ongoing with the rare earths now that we have that MREC in hand. So we have the rare earth resources, we have the monazite concentrate, and the MREC, so we know how it performs in downstream, midstream processing. So what's our focus for this year? Again, talk first off about Mangaroon Gold. Mangaroon Gold, the reason why we're here, the Star of Mangaroon gold mine, which is sitting right behind me. We're not here because the Star of Mangaroon is going to turn into a major mine. It might, but we view it as proof that high-grade mineralization exists and then the history of how it was found by the pastoralists, developed by the pastoralists. This is an area that hasn't had modern exploration techniques, but it has proven high-grade gold. So if we can deploy our exploration to this region, what else can we find here? Can we find more stars? Can we find a better star? It's very exciting to unlock a new camp scale opportunity. So within the Star of Mangaroon itself, we see the opportunity to chase that further at depth and also continue exploring along strike for fault offsets or for any continuation of mineralization. Does this thing blow out? Does this thing repeat? Has it been fault offsetted? These are all questions, and at the grades and the thicknesses of the intercepts that we've seen to date on the Star of Mangaroon, it doesn't need a whole lot more to turn into a substantial body. The real focus for us is the camp scale opportunity. How many more stars are there? Is there a better star? That is our focus in an area that hadn't had soil sampling done previously, an area that had never had detailed airborne magnetics. These are the bread and butter first stage steps of mineral exploration, and here was an area with proven high gold where that work hadn't been done. And already our StreamSed work and our soils work has already highlighted a bunch of new targets that have never been explored, never been drilled, and we see those as extremely exciting opportunities. In particular, Tiger, Rory, and the others, as we get through them, as we're out here mapping right now in preparation for drilling later this month or in June. Upcoming catalysts for this project, we will continue to have target generation and target definition work. We're doing the detailed mapping at the moment with the drones and their geologists on the ground. There'll be hopefully some rock chips and some good mineralization to come from that. And we also have the target definition work within the camp scale area, and we also have the target generation work at potentially the new camps like at Borda and Coria and along some of the major shear structures. Look forward to seeing what comes out from those. So next steps, we're currently doing the detailed mapping, the target definition work around the Star of Mangaroon camp. We're also extending our soils and continuing to generate new targets within the Star of Mangaroon camp. We're also looking at the new camps that we've identified through the stream sediment sampling and seeing if we can get proof of mineralization or generate some targets out there. That'd be very exciting to then not only expand upon the Star of Mangaroon camp, but potentially find a second or third Star of Mangaroon camp. That's the opportunity that we see here, and that's the work that we're undertaking right now, ahead of drilling at the end of this month or the start of June, once we get the drill rigs up here to site. Moving on to Mangaroon rare earths. This is the Yin ironstones and the Gifford Creek carbonatites. Over the last 2 years, we've delivered 40 million tons of rare earth resource. We're opening up what could be a new critical metal province, with the Gifford Creek carbonatites providing niobium, phosphate, titanium, and scandium grades that are quite significant. We have delivered positive IMREC and monazite test work on the Yin ironstones, and a lot of the pre-study work and pre-development work has been underway in the background as part of Project De-risking. The Yin ironstone itself is a high NdPr to trio ratio deposit, one of the highest in the world. This region is well known for its high NdPr to trio ratio monazite concentrates, and when you're looking at producing magnets from rare earths, you're looking for lots of neodymium, lots of praseodymium, and these up here have the most of those in any concentrate from anywhere in the world. The Gifford Creek carbonatite provides the niobium, the scandium, titanium, and phosphate potential, and we still have some fantastic walk-up targets on the Gifford Creek carbonatites with EIS funding that we could drill later this year should we see a return to market sentiment. Upcoming catalyst for this project really is, at this stage, based on a return to market sentiment. We have work going on in the background to continue Project De-risking, as we saw recently with the IMREC test work. However, before we will allocate significant capital to drilling more of this project or advancing this project further, we need to see the rare earth market improve, rare earth prices improve in particular. Once they do, we'll be ready, drill ready to go after the Gifford Creek carbonatite to see if we can make a major discovery there, and for the Yin ironstones, commence study work. So the next steps there, the rare earths are advancing in the background, and we remain loaded for a return to market sentiment. We can kick off a study on Yin in rapid succession and go out and deliver the Gifford Creek drilling. Last but not least, moving on to the money intrusion, which is the nickel-copper PGE potential at Mangaroon. One of my favorite projects, and certainly one of the reasons why we got into the Mangaroon project in the first place. High tenor blebby sulfides identified in the past by a prospector, by the pastoralist, and we've come out, we've identified substantial amounts of mapped high tenor blebby sulfides along 50 kilometers of the money intrusion. We've identified outcropping gussins, and we've drilled high tenor nickel copper massive sulfides in some of our first drilling done on the project area. We feel like we've cracked the code with IP, EM, and magnetic survey data that we have, and we see this as very ripe pre-discovery for making a substantial and significant discovery with high tenor massive sulfides in nickel and copper. However, the nickel sentiment within Western Australia is quite negative, and given the prospectivity and potential of the project and the amount of work that is required to go forward to give this the due focus that it requires, we've had a lot of inbound interest from high quality potential partners, and we continue to advance those discussions, finding a partner to help us advance this opportunity to the next stage. Upcoming catalysts, we have the IP results from the work that First Quantum did at the end of the year. We'll have those out to the market shortly, and then we see any potential deal as a positive catalyst for this project. Next steps, we're currently undergoing a review of the money intrusion in-house, and we're also continuing to advance the discussions with the third parties. Moving up now to Taraji Yampi in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. This area was off limits to exploration since 1978. It's another Proterozoic mobile belt with proven copper discovery with Orion that we made in 2021. We have epithermal style copper gold mineralization at Grants and some of the historical workings that were worked in the 1906, 1900s. And then we also have the nickel copper potential as we're a long strike from the IGO, Buxton, Merlin Double Magic, and recent Dogleg discoveries. This area is off limits to exploration since 1978. We have outcropping and mineralization. Again, this continues to tick all the criteria that Dreadnought looks for in an attractive project. We can come out here and deploy modern exploration techniques, and certainly in Orion at 2021, we made the Orion discovery, one of the first targets that we drilled undercover. The opportunity here is to make additional copper gold discoveries, find Orion's friends, and prove up a collection of deposits, a camp of deposits of copper gold, identify and drill high-grade epithermal mineralization, find a Grants undercover, and potentially make any nickel copper PGE discoveries or find a partner. Taraji Yampi, a lot of the focus for us has been on making the Orion discovery in 2021. We then got sidetracked, focusing on the rare earths down at Mangaroon, and we're coming back to focus on Orion this year to make additional copper and copper gold discoveries. In 2021, we had some significant copper gold massive sulfide mineralization, and the diamond drilling that we put in last year has gone towards confirming that this is actually a VMS system very similar to the Bria Basin and the DeGrussa deposit that made Sandfire the company that it is. These styles of deposits tend to be very high grade with copper and gold and very attractive targets for us to pursue, and they tend to occur in clusters and camps, and we look forward to continuing the exploration up here. Upcoming catalysts, we have the ongoing geophysical and geochemical review. We had a former principal geologist from Sandfire in the office this past week. We have ongoing work going through, is taking the knowledge that we learned last year and reapplying that to the existing targets to prioritize the targets that we're going to be able to test this year, where it looks like we'll have a better run, better weather to get up there and get some work done. Next steps for this project, we recently received EIS funding for geophysical survey, doing IP. And so while we have the Orion targets that we're currently reviewing and we'll be reprioritizing, we also want to generate new targets on this epithermal style of mineralization. And we see IP as being a potential tool based on the success that we've seen over east in the Mount Isa with Hammer and Carnaby. We see IP being a very useful tool for us to trial up here and to help us find a higher grade Grants sitting just undercover. We also have drilling, following up, finishing up the program that we started last year, finding Orion's friends, and also testing Orion at depth. And last but not least, assess the nickel copper potential based on the Dogleg discovery made by IGO in Buxton last year, which is currently ongoing. Let's go back to Orion 2021 and look at some of the amazing drill intercepts that we had up there and some of the follow-up drill intercepts. And when we look at those intercepts in relation to the geophysics, the mag anomalies, and the EM, what we see is a lot of the thicker, higher grade copper mineralization sits within the upper and smaller mag blob. The lower mag blob remains a significant target. We put a pad to drill test that last year as part of testing the gap, which is the gap between the magnetic anomalies, and also we plan to test the magnetic anomaly at depth. However, after being chased out by fire, we couldn't deliver that drill hole, and that remains a high priority target for us. So we really look forward to testing that mag anomaly later this year and extending the Orion deposit at depth and hopefully finding more thick, high-grade mineralization. In addition to that is finding Orion's friends. We had 13 Orion lookalikes based on the geochem and geophysics and mapping data that we had to date. We're now going back and reassessing that on what we've learned about Orion from that last program, and also knowing now that this is a copper gold VMS system very similar to the DeGrussa. We're able to take some of the learnings from all the work that was done over the years at DeGrussa and apply that to how we explore up here. And one of the things, tidbits that's come from that review so far to date, is knowing that Monty, which is one of the massive sulfide deposits found nearby to DeGrussa, that thing took 3 drill holes, 2 downhole EM surveys to vector into it a hit. So when we look at the drilling that we did last year, which was a very short and aborted program, we only got 1 drill hole into a couple of targets, and quite a few of those have very strong, up to 16,000 Siemens off-hole conductor edge hit anomalies. We're very excited to chase those up and to see what those things can have. We continue to see mineralization with that, and you can be 10, 20 meters away from one of these things and see nothing in that drill intercept. So making sure that we test these anomalies and test them well is going to be very critical to assessing the total potential for this area. So the work that we're doing now is going back through, looking at the pathfinders, looking at the anomalies, looking at the strength of the conductors, and we're going to be reviewing those, prioritizing them, so when we go up there this year, we make sure we put the first drill holes into the best targets based on our new knowledge, so we can feed back through and make sure we test the priority targets for this next year. Moving on to our 4th project, this is Bresnahan. Bresnahan we originally pegged because of the heavy rare earth potential and its similarities to the Brown Range in the Athabasca Basin, which means it also had potential for uranium. However, that uranium is in WA, and there's been a lack of interest in WA uranium given the government's current take on mining uranium in the state. That could change with a change of government or a change in government sentiment. However, at this stage, this is a very early stage project. It's a very substantial land holding, 4,700 square kilometers. It has proven uranium mineralization, potential for the heavy rare earths, and for the gold. And we see this as an asset that unfortunately in the current market for sentiment towards exploration in general, in order to advance this and give it the attention that it requires, is probably a bit much for us to chew at this time. And so we're looking at partnerships and spinning out and commercialization, divestment of this asset. Alright, the sun was creeping up on me a bit there, so I've relocated for our final portion of the Investor Hub Hubinar, and that is the question and answer. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to submit me a question on the Investor Hub platform. The first question is from Norman H. Moss. With just over a year of funding left, what is the plan to address cash flow going into fiscal year 25 and beyond? Are we simply looking at another capital raise? Thank you for the question, Norman. Ultimately, and ideally, Dreadnought would love to have its exploration efforts be self-funding. That is, we add value or create value from exploration efforts on our projects. We then commercialize and crystallize value from those, return money to shareholders, and use residual funds to continue our exploration efforts to make more discoveries. Having said that, the resources industry is a very capital-intensive industry. Anytime you're looking at growing or expanding, there's always going to be a need for capital. A great example of that, DeGray today announced a $600 million capital raise, equity raise to build their Hemi deposit. That means over the last 4 years, across 5 capital raises, they've raised close to $1 billion. So, at any stage within the resources industry, capital raises will always be an essential component to that. Looking at capital raises and looking at Dreadnought, we continue to have support of our largest shareholders, our board and management, and market participants. To date, board and management have put in $6.2 million. That's around 10 to 15% of all capital raised into Dreadnought to date. And also reflects our capital holding, or equity holding in the company, which is around 10 to 15% as well. So we continue to back ourselves, and we continue to put money into the company. So should a capital raise be required, then we are in a position in order to fulfill that. As Paul Chapman likes to say, the ultimate form of dilution is going bankrupt. Our next question is from We Will Rock You. Love the name. You've mentioned a few times now that you're in discussions with numerous entities regarding our projects. Are there any timelines, milestones set on outcomes of these discussions? How close are we to monetizing any of our projects or assets? And is anything likely to happen before we need to raise more capital? Thank you, We Will Rock You. Up front, I'd like to say that I would like to see some of our deals that are progressing in the background done before we have a need for any more capital. But asking about timelines and how long and when a deal will be done is also like asking how long's a piece of string. We're dealing with third-party entities, and we speak in particular with some of these major companies. They can certainly take their time in assessing projects and moving them forward. So we can't really set milestones or timelines because there are third-party entities. We're also not in a rush to sell any of our projects at a discount to what the market values them at or what we value them at. So if we can't get a deal on the right terms, then we will knock that back. And if there's no deal coming in, we can't control that. So we do always have groups that we're in discussions with. A good example of this, we've had a group review a major company reviewing one of our projects for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and constantly in the room and reviewing that project. At the end of last year, we got fairly close to negotiating terms, and a significant change happened within the industry and for that company, and things got put on hold. Does that mean that the deal is done after 3 to 4 years of work in the background? Absolutely not. Just means it's been delayed, waiting for a change of sentiment for the market. There's always lots of things going on with our potential partner companies and with us and with the wider market that can impact the valuations and timings of getting deals done. But we're always having discussions in the background, and hopefully we'll be able to close some out before our next requirements for capital raise. And from Anthony Burnham, why are there no photos of that handsome devil Luke Blaze in the quarterly report? I apologize, Anthony. I know I should be giving the market what the market wants, and there's a photo down there in the corner of the handsome devil that is Luke Blaze, moments before we were awarded the AMEC Prospector of the Year award. Looking very pensive and nervous there he is. So I apologize, and there's a photo for you. Our next question is from Goldfinger. Any news on Lithium Partners and C7, the mysterious exploration site? Will you pursue iron ore tenements next year? And after reprioritizing exploration sites in the Kimberley, will you still explore the nickel site by Buxton? Thank you, Goldfinger, for those questions. The Lithium Partners, those discussions are ongoing. We have a major in the room. In regards to the Lithium Partners, we have a few discussions ongoing, and those discussions continue to progress in a positive manner. We did receive one offer that was knocked back, and we continue to engage with them and other parties. C7 internally was called Mini-Me. I believe that's in reference to one of the Gifford Creek carbonatite targets that comprise C1 to C6 and C7 at one stage. That's now called Gifford Creek carbonatite. C7 ended up being, that was reported as part of our ASX announcements. There was nothing significant there. That ring feature and weathering was that ring feature in the magnetics ended up being a weathering feature and comprised of carbonates within the Edmund group. Will you pursue iron ore tenements next year? The iron ore has been there for quite some time. So when you look at the iron ore, you look at companies that are doing quite well, junior companies in particular like Phoenix, and they've come out and they've said, we will look at any asset that's within 500 meters or 500 kilometers of a port. Iron ore, more so than any other commodity, is very much a logistical exercise. And when we look at the location of the central Yilgarn iron ore prospects, they are significantly further away than 500 meters from a port. Now, we do have Minres next door, and Hancock, and of course Juno, and MacArthur, all looking at developing their iron ore projects in that area. So, how do we see the iron ore value going forward? As it currently stands, that needs to have a partnership for us to advance, and I think that any partnership, or any potential partnership going forward, or any decision on us to advance that project ourselves, would require Minres building that haul road up to Mount Richardson, which goes right through central Yilgarn, MacArthur, Juno, or Hancock's Mount Bevan operations progressing and coming into operation, proving and putting in that infrastructure required for the logistics of hauling iron ore. When those activities happen, I think we'll see more movement again on the iron ore front. Until then, it sits in the background. And finally, after reprioritizing exploration sites in the Kimberley, will you still explore the nickel site by Buxton? That's a fantastic question. I think, hand on heart, that review is still ongoing. I think that the things that we have learned from the last year of drilling Orion and the copper gold around that area, realizing that is a DeGrussa style copper gold VMS type of mineralization, I think that some of those targets are going to be reprioritized and become even more attractive to us than they were in the first stance. plus adding the epithermal targets and the grants look-alikes with that EIS co-funded IP survey that we have going out there. The nickel exploration is very exciting, as we've seen with the money intrusion, which I think is a better nickel opportunity. The market for the nickel isn't that strong at the moment, and that would be something that we would certainly be looking for a partner on. And I think something we would definitely be looking for a partner on. And so, do I think that we'll see significant work programs this year? Probably not. However, through that reprioritization exercise, there might be some anomalies that we go out and do some EM on once we have the ground EM crew out there. So, might be doing some target generation definition work for later next year. Next up is Eddie the Dog. With the ANSTO report in now, how do you envision a rare earth deal going forward? Is there a possibility of Dre producing a concentrate to on-sell? If and when a deal is done, how would shareholders be remunerated? Would there be a one-off dividend, possibly a share buyback? Keep up the good work. It's not been easy. Thank you, Eddie. Certainly feel that. So, a couple parts there to take apart. Looking at this, so what are the options going forward for the rare earths? The answer to all of your questions is yes, and also no. So what are we looking at? Is there the possibility of Dre producing a concentrate to on-sell? I see two possibilities, or two scenarios in which that might be the case. This is all speculation, so this is all options are on the table for the commercialization of the rare earth asset, and so I'll address these questions with some hypotheticals. If Dreadnought was to produce concentrate to on-sell, I see that happening in two scenarios. One would be if Dre was to do it 100%, then that would require a demerger of the company. So we'd be looking at creating a rare earth company and the rest of the exploration assets into another company. I myself and the team would go and continue to do exploration, and a rare earth team with experience in developing and bringing on board a rare earth project would go with the rare earth aspect. That's one scenario, requires a demerger, in which case our shareholders would receive shares in both entities and get an opportunity to participate in those going forward. Option number two, for us producing our own concentrate, is to actually partner with a mining company, midstream, downstream processor, such as Iluka, Linus, Energy Fuel, or others, in which case they come in as a partner on the project, help deliver that and bring their expertise, and we remain a minority partner in that, producing the concentrate and likely selling into as an offtake into those operations. If a deal is done, how would shareholders be remunerated? Would there be a one-off dividend, possibly a share buyback? Now, the one-off dividends and the share buybacks would require an excess return of capital. So if there was a partnership with significant upfront cash component or an outright sale, then absolutely we would look at both a dividend and or a share buyback, depending on what was most tax effective for our shareholders and for the company. Move on to the next question from ILDS. Nice to see you again. Hi DT and team, can you compare these IMREC results to current met results of producing mines around the world? Interested to see how it relates to commerciality of the deposits. Thank you, ILDS. That is a very loaded question, and if anyone can find the information on IMREC results from operations or even other explorers, I would love to see them. There's very limited IMREC results out there on the market, and even fewer that actually have details of the quality of that IMREC. There are a few companies that have put out the quality of their IMREC results to some degree, and those include Meteoric, Hastings, Victory Metals, and you can look across those, and the IMREC results that we've put out to date are higher grade than those. A lot of companies, especially your Clay of the Day plays, those that have said they've produced an IMREC have never actually disclosed the quality of that IMREC. And I think if someone hasn't disclosed the quality of that IMREC, then you can pretty much assume that it's probably not commercial. So there is very limited commercial data out there for IMREC products. There's a couple Chinese standards, greater than 42%, greater than 44%, and greater than 59%, in which case our mixed rare earth carbonate, meets those specifications quite nicely. However, having said that, the most important aspect of that IMREC test work was looking at, for us, it's looking at the partnerships and looking at utilizing existing infrastructure that's out there already in existence or planning to be built. So, all processing facilities that take in monazite concentrate and use that to convert to IMREC and then plus or minus oxide, facilities like LAMP up in Malaysia controlled by Linus, or the new Kalgoorlie plant being built out at Linus, Iniaba's facility, be that Energy Fuels or Toyota in India, you look at these facilities that currently process monazite concentrate, they all do it slightly differently. For example, the Linus plant in Kalgoorlie uses a really high temperature crack and leach, whereas the Iniaba plant is designed to have a much lower temperature crack and leach process for breaking open that monazite. So this test work did a range of temperature and acid consumption scenarios to see how it would actually compare or how it would perform in different facilities already in existence or planned to be in existence. So it's mainly a marketing piece to actually go around and we can now showcase not only the quality of the monazite, but then also how that monazite performs, at least on test work and on paper, through those facilities to help with engaging in discussions. Last three questions, which have come through, not through a direct Investor Hub question, but through other avenues. One, can you provide detailed timelines and expectations for assay results from the recently completed drilling at Central Yilgarn? Due to the rains and the flooding this year, the labs have been very underutilized, and so our samples are going through the lab much faster than we anticipated. So we should expect to see those assay results before the end of this month, probably somewhere around the second half of May. How will the $300,000 EIS drilling and geophysical grants be allocated, and what specific activities will they fund? The EIS grant for RC drilling at Tiger here at Mangaroon, I believe that's $150,000, and that'll be used to fund RC drilling into that target, which we're currently mapping and very excited about progressing and drilling here in the next few weeks. The other EIS grant is for the geophysics up in the Kimberley, and that's for an IP survey. And essentially, we have the Orion DeGrussa style massive sulfides, the copper gold there, which has been lit up well by the EM, and continue to use an EM dominated exploration technique and approach for that. We also have the Grant style epithermal mineralization, which is more disseminated chalcopyrite within a quartz vein. And that style of mineralization, as we've seen with support in, or seen with success by Carnaby and Hammer over east, we like to trial IP over that Grant's mineralization to see if we can light that up and then go and chase a Grant style deposit undercover. If Grant's was higher grade with more sulfide content and less silica, then it wouldn't stick out of the ground, it would be undercover, and an IP survey lighting up a high grade Grant's would be a very exciting additional target to our program this year. So those are the two, what they're used for: RC drilling at Tiger here at Mangaroon, which we'll be doing here in the next couple of weeks, and also the geophysical survey up in the Kimberley, which is planned to take off in June this year. I guess some additional details, I guess, of what specific activities do they fund. They provide 50% funding for mobilization, work time activities, and everything else. So essentially, by the time it's all said and done, EIS support provides around 40 to 50% of the funding for the activity. Last question, how is the company planning to address potential risks and challenges identified during the drilling and exploration phases? As we talked about early in the strategy piece, potential risks and challenges in drilling and exploration, that is a very broad question, and that covers a wide range of things from community and environment to technical risk to commercial risk and everything else. So how do we address risk and challenges? Overall, I would say I want to just go with how do we manage risk identified with exploration, and that is having lots of options and having a pipeline of quality targets. There's a very exploration success and discovery is a very rare event. I think 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000, depending on the stats and the publications you look at. And so you have to kiss a lot of frogs to make that discovery. So if we continue to add to our target portfolio, continue to enhance our knowledge and understanding of our target areas, and keep exploring in new areas that haven't had quality exploration done before, then we can continue to have options that give us good prospects of success. So there's never a guarantee, and you have to drill a lot of targets to find drill a lot of targets to discover that success. So we have a range of portfolio and optionality across commodities, projects, and quality targets that we're always producing. One of the things I tell the guys from the very early days is for every target we test, we want to be proving up 5 more. And the principle behind that, the absolute numbers are really just an example, but the idea behind that is you always want to be testing targets, and then every target you're learning something from, and so you always want to be generating new targets in the background to replace that target, and ideally you have success and you also have a better understanding and better ranking of targets, similar to what we're doing in the Kimberley right now. So the plan for 2024, in summary of everything that we've talked about today, this is a slide from RIU, major high-grade gold discoveries at Central Yilgarn and Mangaroon. That drilling program at Central Yilgarn has been delivered. We're waiting for those assay results later this month. drilling at Mangaroon is set to commence. We're here on site now. That is set to commence by the end of this month, the start of June, and we're very much looking forward to delivering that program. The team's out there right now doing drone surveys, mapping, surface sampling, getting soils done, defining those targets and generating new ones as we speak ahead of the drilling program. And again, ongoing target generation, as I've just said, is what the team's doing right now. Continue to advance rare earths in the background. We're waiting for improved market conditions. We see it as an extremely valuable asset, and we're very well leveraged and positioned to any returning sentiment to rare earths. We have unfinished business at Taraji Yampi, and our understanding of that system continues to improve, and we continue to get excited. Speaking last night over a wine and a campfire with our exploration manager, Nick Chapman, getting even more excited about what we've learned from last year. Last year was a frustrating project. We didn't get to drill what we wanted to drill. However, what we've learned from that has made us even more excited than we were before, and we can't wait to get back up there and see what we can get up with that drill rig. Continue the money intrusion programs. We have a couple discussions ongoing, and we hope to have some of those finalized here in the near future, and commercialize Bresnahan. All of these things remain on track. We continue to continue to do what we say we're going to do, and we look forward to delivering the programs for the rest of this year with our strategy of focusing on gold and copper, trying to streamline and simplify our portfolio, get some partnerships in, do some deals, and really get up there, finish that copper gold drilling in the Kimberley, and deliver some gold discoveries. So takeaway message, as always, we have strong news flow this year focused on copper and gold, with significant rare earth value awaiting a return to market sentiment for rare earths. We have a track record of delivering discoveries across commodities and our projects here in Western Australia. We're poised to deliver additional discoveries in 2024. Morale is high with the team, the market's down, but we're pretty excited about what we have in front of us and our chances at making another discovery this year. We're very excited to get those drill rigs turning, the truth machine going, and seeing what we get from the ground. And again, experienced management team with a track record of success, strongly aligned with shareholders. That's $6.2 million invested to date. That's 10 to 15% of all funds raised to date for Dreadnought, and 15% board and management. We have a lot of skin in the game. We're strongly aligned with our shareholders, and we are here to deliver success. Thank you very much for tuning in to our first Investor Hub. I hope this has been a successful experience for everyone. We look forward to continue doing these engagement pieces with our shareholders through this platform. So please give us some feedback, let us know how this went, and we look forward to getting in front of you again. Thank you very much.